Welcome to Practical Ethical Hacking. Can you find the weakness before a malicious hacker does? In this course, we will build a safe lab, scan systems, find vulnerabilities, and exploit them legally. Learn to think like an attacker, but behave like a professional. Welcome to your complete hacking journey, from Linux basics to advanced web attacks. Master the exact methodology used by professional penetration testers. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first lecture of our Ethical Hacking and Penetration Testing course. In this course, we are going to learn how cybersecurity professionals think, how they test systems, how they identify weaknesses, and most importantly, how they help organizations become more secure. Before we start, let me make one thing very clear. Everything we learn in this course is for educational, ethical, and legal purposes only. Ethical hacking means working with permission, within a defined scope, and with the intention of improving security. The defining question of this course is simple. Can you find the weakness before a malicious hacker does? To answer that, we will follow a structured methodology. First, we will build a safe, isolated lab environment. Then, we'll learn how to scan systems, uncover hidden vulnerabilities, and exploit them legally. Finally, we'll wrap it all up by writing a professional pen testing report. Please remember, everything taught here is strictly for educational and authorized testing purposes only. Let us begin by understanding why ethical hackers are important in today's cybersecurity environment. The need for ethical hackers is increasing because organizations are becoming more dependent on technology. Websites, networks, applications, databases, cloud systems, and user accounts are now part of almost every organization. Wherever technology exists, there can be weaknesses. Ethical hackers help identify those weaknesses before malicious hackers exploit them. Why are ethical hackers in such high demand? Because the threats are real, and the scale of data breaches is massive. Look at recent history. We've seen breaches exposing 533 million records from Facebook, 250 million from Microsoft, and millions more across various sectors. Organizations face constant threats from phishing attacks, malware, data breaches, and unpatched systems. As ethical hackers, our job is to proactively find these flaws, protect sensitive data, and strengthen overall defenses before the bad guys strike. Let's look at the numbers. A staggering 95% of cybersecurity breaches are actually caused by human error. Furthermore, 43% of all breaches are insider threats, whether intentional or entirely accidental. With the worldwide information security market forecast to reach over $366 billion by 2028, it's clear that cybersecurity is no longer optional. Companies urgently need skilled professionals to keep their data safe. One major hurdle we face is what we call the folk model of security. Many everyday computer users assume they are secure just because they have a basic antivirus, a firewall, or a password in place. But the reality is far more complex. Hidden vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, outdated software, and human error can easily bypass these basic defenses. Security must be verified, not just assumed. That is exactly why your skills will be so vital. To properly secure an organization, we have to look at defense in depth. This means protecting 5 distinct layers. Physical security to protect facilities. Network security to block unauthorized access. System security to protect individual machines from theft or corruption. Application security to defend software from external threats. And finally, user security to ensure only authorized individuals can access critical applications. To understand the true impact of cyber attacks, let's look at a historical example, Stuxnet. Discovered in 2010, this highly sophisticated malware targeted Iran's nuclear program. It was designed to manipulate the rotational speed of uranium enrichment centrifuges, ultimately damaging roughly 1/5 of them. The key lesson here is profound. Cyber attacks are not just about stealing data. They can cross over and cause severe, real-world physical damage. We saw this physical disruption again in 2015 and 2016 when hackers targeted Ukraine's power grid. These attacks caused massive power outages across the region. It served as a massive wake-up call to governments worldwide that critical infrastructure is incredibly vulnerable to cyber warfare. Beyond physical damage, the financial losses can be devastating. In February 2016, hackers orchestrated a massive heist against Bangladesh's central bank, resulting in a reported financial loss of $101 million. Later that same year, a Ukrainian bank was hacked, losing $10 million. These incidents directly disrupt trust in global banking systems and show the high-stakes nature of this field. So, what is our ultimate purpose? Our goal is to identify threats, reduce risk, and protect information assets. By doing this, we protect the organization's ability to function. We enable the safe operation of applications. We secure the data they collect, and we safeguard their expensive technology assets. Before we get hands-on, we need to establish a shared vocabulary. First, assets. These are the people, property, and information that enable a business to function and must be protected. Second, vulnerabilities. These are the actual weaknesses or gaps in security that can be exploited. Third, threats. This is anything that can exploit a vulnerability to damage or destroy an asset. It's what we protect against. And finally, risk, which is the probability of a threat becoming real and the potential for loss or damage as a result. Here is our roadmap for the journey ahead. We've just completed our introduction. Next, we will set up our virtual labs using VMware and Kali Linux, dive into Linux essentials, and explore footprinting and reconnaissance. From there, we'll move into scanning, enumeration, vulnerability analysis, and eventually, system hacking and web attacks. We will tie it all together with a comprehensive capstone project at the end. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video where we will set up our pen testing lab. In this video, we are going to see how we can set up our own penetration testing lab. Setting up a safe pen testing lab is of utmost importance. Performing pen testing in an uncontrolled manner can infect the security analyst's PC as well. So, we need to set up the lab where we can learn and test our exploits in a safe and legal manner. First, we need a virtualization software on our host system. We will be using VMware for this. On top of VMware, we are going to install two machines. Kali Linux as the attacking machine and Metasploitable 2 as the target machine. And we are going to set up these machines in NAT networking. NAT, network address translation, is a networking technique that allows multiple devices on a local network to share a single public IP address when accessing the internet. So, our Kali machine and Metasploitable VM will not be directly connected to the internet, and if they need internet, they will have to go through the host machine. In this video, we are going to see how we can install VMware Workstation Pro on our PC. VMware Workstation is a powerful virtualization software that allows users to run multiple operating systems on a single physical machine. It provides a secure and isolated environment for testing, development, and deployment of applications across different platforms. VMware Workstation is popular among IT professionals and developers for creating and managing virtual machines efficiently. We can download VMware Workstation Pro from the Broadcom website. The link has been provided. After the download is complete, we can install it. Now, let us see the demonstration. Paste the link provided in your browser. It will redirect you to a login page. We need an account on the Broadcom site. On the top right corner, we can see the login button. Click it, and then click on Register. Now, you can sign up on the site with your details. After the sign-up is complete, you can move back to provided web link. Now select the option to download Windows Workstation Pro for personal use. Agree to the terms and conditions and click on the download button. After the download is complete, move to the Downloads folder. Double-click the installer to start installing the software. Accept the terms and conditions and click on Next. Just follow the on-screen instructions and complete the installation. If at any time it asks for the license key, just select the option to use for personal use. After the installation is complete, you can open the software from desktop and our installation is complete. In this video, we are going to see how we can use pre-built Kali Linux on VMware. The concept is very simple. The first step, you need to download pre-built Kali from official website. And in step 2, you only have to open it in VMware. So in step 1, download Kali Linux virtual machine image from the official website. And now in step 2, open the machine in VMware. So we are on Kali Linux official website. Click on Download. Now select the option to download virtual machines. Here we have pre-built Kali Linux machines for VMware, as well as 4 VirtualBox. As we are using VMware, just click on Download, and your download will start automatically. Once downloaded, extract it. The files will be extracted in a separate folder. If you want, you can move the folder to your desired location. Now, open your VMware Workstation. Select to open a virtual machine. Now go to your extracted Kali Linux folder and select the file. The Kali Linux will be loaded into VMware. Now you can edit its settings. You can change its CPU, the disk allotted to it, or the RAM. I try to keep the RAM above 4 GB. Make sure that in network settings, the NAT mode is selected. Now power on this virtual machine. and Kali Linux will be booted. It will take a while to start. The default username and password for the machine is Kali. And you can see that we have successfully opened a pre-built Kali machine on VMware. Now you can use different commands and tools as you like. The whoami command displays the current user. The ifconfig command can be used to check the current IP address of the Kali machine. And we have successfully set up Kali Linux on VMware. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can set up a Metasploitable 2 virtual machine. We will be using this machine as a target machine in our future lectures and test our pen testing methodology. Metasploitable 2 is an intentionally vulnerable Linux virtual machine. This can be used to conduct security training, test security tools, and practice common pen testing techniques. The virtual machine is compatible with VMware, VirtualBox, and other common virtualization platforms. It is the best resource to practice pen testing in a virtualized local environment. So you need to have a VirtualBox or VMware workstation installed on your machine. The first step is to download Metasploitable 2 from the official website. Once downloaded, extracted, it contains both VMware and VirtualBox versions. Now, in VMware Workstation, open the virtual machine. In Network Settings, you can change network settings to NAT. Turn on both the Kali machine as well as Metasploitable, and try to check the connectivity with ping command. Now let's see the actual demonstration. First of all, open the official website. And download the latest version of the machine. Once downloaded, extract it. And you will have both VMware and VirtualBox versions available. Now, on your workstation, select to open a virtual machine. Browse to the directory and select it. Open the virtual machine settings and change the network adapter to NAT. Now power on this machine and choose the option that I copied it. Metasploitable 2 will boot up. And it will ask for a username and password, which is msfadmin by default. Just enter the username and password, and it will boot. Now from your Kali machine, you can try to ping the machine, and you can see that our machine is accessible. And we now have our complete ethical hacking lab set up with VMware, Kali Linux, and Metasploitable 2. Hey everyone, and welcome to this complete, comprehensive short course on Linux for hackers. If you are serious about stepping into cybersecurity, you have to master your operating system first. Today, we are focusing on Linux essentials. Make sure you grab a coffee, open up your own terminal, and follow along. Let's get started. Our aim is to get a general understanding of the Linux operating system because we are going to use it a lot in this course. Linux is an indispensable tool and system in the field of cybersecurity. The reality is, many servers run on Linux, and it offers a wide range of possibilities for offensive security practitioners, network defenders, and systems administrators. In this module, we will thoroughly cover the Linux structure, using the shell, navigating the Linux operating system, working with files and directories, basic Linux administration, and permissions management. Before we start typing commands, we need to talk about the Linux philosophy. Linux doesn't behave like Windows or Mac OS, and understanding how it thinks will make you a much better hacker. There are 5 core principles you need to memorize. First, everything is a file. All configuration files for the various services running on the Linux operating system are stored in one or more text files. Second, Linux uses small, single-purpose programs. It offers many different tools that we will work with, which can be combined to work together. Third, the ability to chain programs together to perform complex tasks. The integration and combination of different tools enable us to carry out many large and complex tasks, such as processing or filtering specific data results. Fourth, avoid captive user interfaces. Linux is designed to work mainly with the shell, or terminal, which gives the user greater control over the operating system. Finally, configuration data is stored in a text file. An example of such a file is the etc password file, which stores all users registered on the system. Let's look under the hood at the core components of Linux. The bootloader is a piece of code that runs to guide the booting process to start the operating system. For example, Parrot Linux uses the grub bootloader. The OS kernel is the main component of an operating system. It manages the resources for the system's I/O devices at the hardware level. Daemons are background services. Their purpose is to ensure that key functions such as scheduling, printing, and multimedia are working correctly. These small programs load after we boot or log into the computer. The OS shell, or command line, is the interface between the OS and the user, allowing the user to tell the OS what to do. The most commonly used shells are Bash, Z shell, and Fish. The graphics server provides a graphical subsystem called an X server that allows graphical programs to run. The window manager, also known as a GUI, gives you your desktop environment, like GNOME or KDE. Finally, utilities are applications or programs that perform particular functions for the user or another program. Think of the Linux architecture like a layer cake. At the bottom, you have the hardware, your RAM, hard drive, and CPU. Sitting right on top of that is the kernel, whose function is to virtualize and control those hardware resources. It gives each process its own virtual resources to prevent conflicts. The next layer up is the shell, the command line interface where you enter commands to execute the kernel's functions. And at the very top is the system utility layer, which makes all the operating system's functionality available to you, the user. Now let's talk about how files are organized. This is the file system hierarchy. Everything stems from one single root point at the top and branches downward into specific folders like bin, etc, and home. Let's demystify what these folders actually hold. Here is your directory cheat sheet. You don't need to memorize them all today, but keep these in mind. / is the top-level root file system. Bin contains your essential command binaries, the basic commands you will run. Boot consists of the bootloader and kernel executable. Dev contains device files for hardware attached to the system. etc is incredibly important for hackers. It holds local system configuration files. Home is where each standard user has a subdirectory for personal storage. Lib holds shared library files. Media and MNT are where external devices like USBs are mounted. Opt is for optional files like third-party hacking tools. Root is the specific home directory for the superuser, or root user. SBIN contains executables used for system administration. Temp stores temporary files and usually clears when you reboot. User directory contains executables, libraries, and man files. var contains variable data like log files and web application files. On our Kali Linux, we can move to the root directory by typing cd and a /. If we do an ls, we can find the major directories like bin, dev, home, and boot. We can also see that in the GUI. We can click the File Explorer icon at the top. Now, click on File System. And here we can see the folders we discussed earlier. When you open up a terminal, the text on the left is called the prompt. It gives you vital clues. The tilde symbol marks your home directory. A $sign means you are logged in as a normal, unprivileged user. But as soon as we log in as root, meaning we have full administrative control, that character changes to a hash. In our Kali Linux prompt, we can see the tilde symbol, which means we are in the home directory, and the $sign represents we are a normal user. As soon as we use the command sudo su, the $sign changes to a hash, indicating we are now the root user. One of the biggest secrets in IT is that nobody memorizes every command. Knowing how to ask the system for help is a mandatory skill. Let's look at this example. If I want to use a networking tool like curl, but forgot the syntax, I just type curl, --help, and hit enter. The terminal instantly prints a cheat sheet of all the options I can use. If I want the full, deeply detailed instruction booklet, I type man curl. Now I can read exactly how the tool was built to function. Let's see this in action. To get general help about the wget command, type in wget --help, and we can see the complete syntax and flag details. If we want a complete explanation, we can open its manual by typing in man wget. Here, we have complete explanations of each and every flag. Next, we move to system information. Whenever you compromise a machine or start a new assessment, you need to ask 3 questions. Who am I? Where am I? And what is running on this box? Here are the commands to answer those questions. Who am I displays your current username. ID returns your user's identity and group permissions. Host name prints the name of the current host system. Uname prints basic information about the operating system name and system hardware. PWD returns your present working directory, telling you exactly which folder you are currently sitting inside. For networking, ifconfig and IP show your network interfaces and IP addresses. netstat shows network status, and SS is used to investigate sockets. Continuing with system information. PS shows the process status, meaning you can see what apps are currently running. Who displays who else is logged into the machine. ENV prints your environment variables. We also have hardware list commands, ls blk list block devices or hard drives, ls USB list USB devices, ls of lists open files, and ls PCI lists PCI devices. Let's put this into practice. I just opened my terminal. First, who am I? It tells me my username. The ID command returns the user's identity, including the specific groups and permissions assigned to that account. Now, let's type pwd. This prints my working directory, confirming I am in my home folder. If I type IPA, I can immediately see my local IP address, which is critical to know before launching any network attacks. To navigate directories without a mouse, we use the cd command, which stands for change directory. You type cd followed by the path, like cd dev/shm. If you want to take a step backwards into the previous folder, you simply type cd :/ and press enter. Now that you can move around, let's learn how to interact with files and folders. Creating things in Linux is very straightforward. The touch command followed by a file name instantly creates an empty file. The mkdir command, short for make directory, creates a new folder. The move command is a 2-in-1 tool. You use it to move a file from one folder to another. However, you also use move to rename a file. As you can see here, by typing moveinfo.txt /information.txt, we are basically moving the contents into a new name. To actually see the files inside a folder, we use the ls command to list them down. Hackers almost always use the -la flag with it. This lists everything, including hidden files, and gives us crucial data columns. The first column shows the file type and permissions. The second shows hard links. The third shows the owner of the file, and the fourth shows the group owner. The fifth is the size of the file. The sixth is the date and time it was last modified. And the final column is the actual file or directory name. Watch how simple this is. I will make a folder using mkdir command. Let's create an empty text file using touch target data command. Now, if I type ls-la, I get a clean output showing my new file, showing me as the owner, and showing my read and write permissions. It is that fast. Now, if we want to rename this file, we can use the move command. Just provide it the old file name and new file name. And if list down the files again, we can see the file now. When performing penetration testing, you will often need to search massive file systems for passwords, flags, or vulnerable scripts. Finding files quickly is an art form. If you want to know if a specific tool is installed, use the which command. This tool returns the path to the executable file. It allows us to determine if specific programs like QRL, Netcat, Python, or GCC are available on the operating system. For instance, typing, which Python tells us exactly where the Python engine lives. The locate command searches a background database to find files instantly. Just remember to run sudo update db first to make sure that database is up to date. Then, you can search for patterns. The absolute gold standard for searching is the find command. It searches the live file system based on strict rules. Look at this example. Find type f -name *.html outputs files with their respective paths. Let's break down the options. -type F defines that we only want files, not folders. -name indicates the exact name or extension we are looking for. -user root filters files owned by the root user. -size plus 20K filters for files larger than 20 kilobytes. -newer MT filters for files newer than a specific date. And crucially, adding 2. Dev null at the end redirects all the standard permission denied errors to a null device, ensuring no errors clutter up your terminal screen. Let's see this in action. I want to find every backup file in my entire system, but I don't want to see error messages for folders I don't have permission to access. I'll type find /-type F-name *.back and redirect the error output to dev null. Only clean, readable results are printed to the screen. You will use this syntax heavily in the field. Our final core topic is user management. Cybersecurity often revolves around gaining access to an unprivileged user and then trying to elevate your privileges to become the root user. If you do achieve root privileges, you can read the etc shadow file, which stores user password hashes. To manage these users, we use a few key utilities. Sudo allows you to execute a command as a different user, usually an administrator. su switches your current terminal session to a completely different user ID. User add and user del are used to create or delete accounts. User mod modifies an existing account. Add group and del group manage permission groups. And password allows you to change a user's password. On Linux etc, password file contains user's details and is universally readable, but it does not contain the actual hashes. The actual hashes are stored in etc shadow file. But to read it, we need root rights, so we can use sudo command to read it. And here we can see our Kali user hashes. Okay, you have the fundamentals. Now it is time to get your hands dirty. These lab tasks aim to provide you with practical experience in essential system administration and security skills. Task 1 covers creating and managing users. Task 2 focuses on file management and basic system commands. Task 3 emphasizes using commands to locate files. Through these tasks, you'll gain the hands-on muscle memory that is crucial for managing Linux systems effectively. Here is your mission. Task 1. Create a user with your name, add it to the root user group, and change the current user to your newly created user. Task 2. Create a hidden README file in your user home directory, list down files to clearly indicate the hidden directory, and use commands to list down the current user, system info, and present working directory. Task 3. Show the various commands required to find the files john.list and sudo. Do not skip this step. Open up your Linux environment right now, pause the video, and work through these 3 tasks. The only way to learn Linux is by breaking things and fixing them in the terminal. In this video, we are going to learn to add a new user to Kali Linux, and then escalation it privileges to a root user. We are in Kali Linux. Open a new terminal. Now, we can add a new user in Kali Linux with the add user command. The command will ask to set a new password for the user. Just set a password. If you want, you can provide additional details for the user. and our user will be added. You can verify this by opening the etc password file. Here, you can see that our user is added at the bottom. We can get more details of a user with the ID command. We can see our user is not part of the root group. To add user to the root group, use the command as shown on the screen. Now, we can run the same ID command, and now we can see that our user is now part of the root group. To switch to the newly created user, use the command su-username. Provide the password, and we are now logged in with the newly created user. In this video, we are going to learn to create a hidden file, how to navigate the basic file system, and getting the system and user information. We are in Kali Linux. Open a new terminal. We can use the cd command to change the directory. Use the command cd tilde symbol to change to home directory. The ls command is used to list down the files. Nano editor can be used to create a new file. If you prefix the file name with a dot, the file becomes hidden. You can enter any text in the created hidden file and save the file. Now, if we use ls command, we cannot see the hidden file. But if we use the command ls-la, we can now see the file. Now, let us see how we can get information about the current user and system. The simplest command is whoami, which lists the current user. The command uname-a lists down information about the system, including the kernel version. Similarly, you can check the current directory with pwd command. In this video, we are going to learn to find files in a Linux operating system. We are in Kali Linux terminal. The basic command to find the files in Linux is the find command. The syntax of the command is shown on screen. The command searches all files from root directory to find the specified file. But the command is slow and takes a bit of time to find the required file. There is another command to find the files in a much faster manner. But we first need to tell Kali to update its search indexes with the updatedb command. Next, we can use the locate command to find the files. Now, let us see how we can find the exact location of any executable. We can use the which command to locate the executable location. Similarly, whereas command also provides us information about the executable location. That brings us to the end of our Linux Essentials module. I hope this helped clear up the command line for you. If you got value out of this, hit the like button, subscribe to Cavemen Tech for more cybersecurity training, and I will see you all in the next lecture. Welcome back. By now you've got your Kali Linux lab up and running. So we're done with setup, and this is where the real work starts. In this session, we're going to walk through penetration testing as a process, not random tools, not try things until something breaks. an actual repeatable methodology that professional testers follow on every engagement. So first, what do we even mean by a methodology? A penetration testing methodology is just the defined course of action a tester follows to assess a target, a website, a network, whatever's in front of them. And here's the important part. There is no single correct methodology. The approach you pick depends on the engagement itself. It comes down to three things. First, the target type. What kind of business and systems are you looking at? Second, the goal. What is this test actually meant to prove or uncover? And third, the scope. The agreed boundaries of what you're allowed to touch. Get those three clear before you ever run a tool, and everything else follows. Now let's define the field we're working in, ethical hacking. The simplest way to put it, it's hacking, used to improve security. You're taking an offensive technique and pointing it at defense. The job is to find the weaknesses first, to identify vulnerabilities before a malicious actor does. And to do that convincingly, you use the same tools and the same techniques a real attacker would. There's no separate ethical toolkit. So if the tools are identical, what makes you different from the criminal? Two things. The intent. You're there to protect, not to damage. And authorization. You have explicit permission to test. That permission is the line. Cross it, and you're not an ethical hacker anymore, no matter how good your intentions were. Keep that front of mind for the rest of this course. Here's the map for the rest of the session. Almost every engagement moves through 5 phases, in order. 1. Reconnaissance, gather intelligence on the target. 2. Scanning, map the hosts, ports, and services. 3. Gaining access, find the weaknesses and exploit them. 4. Maintaining access, establish a foothold so you can come back. And 5. Covering tracks, erasing the evidence of what you did. We're going to take these one at a time. Phase 1. Reconnaissance. This is the first step of any attack. Before you touch anything, you collect information about the target network. You're looking for the different ways you could get in. And recon splits into 2 flavors. The first is passive, or indirect, reconnaissance. Here you gather information without directly interacting with the target's systems. Think who-is lookups, open source intelligence, public records. The target never knows you were looking. It's quiet. The second is active, or direct, reconnaissance. Now you are interacting with the system, pinging hosts, grabbing service banners. It gives you richer information, but it's louder, and it can show up in their logs. The skill here is knowing how much noise you can afford to make for the information you need. Phase 2. Scanning. Once you've done your recon, scanning is the set of procedures you use to actually map the network. Its hosts, its ports, its services. This is core intelligence gathering. It's how attackers build a profile of the whole target organization. Scanning has 4 main objectives. First, discover the live hosts, which machines are up, what their IP addresses are, and which ports are open. Second, identify the operating system and the system architecture. Third, enumerate the services running on each host, what's actually listening. And fourth, detect the vulnerabilities on those live hosts. By the end of scanning, you should have a picture of the network's attack surface, what's there, and where the soft spots might be. Phase 3 is gaining access, and it has 2 halves. Let's take the first one, vulnerability assessment. This is where you analyze the protocols, the services, and the configurations you found, looking for the vulnerabilities and design flaws that expose the system to attack. When you find them, you classify your findings two ways: by severity, low, medium, or high. How bad is it if this gets exploited? And by exploit range. Is it local, meaning you need to already be on the machine, or remote, meaning it can be hit across the network? A high-severity, remotely exploitable vulnerability is the one that should keep a defender up at night. And it's the one you'll prioritize. Now the second half of gaining access. Actually exploiting what you found. Exploitation isn't one action. It's a chain of related steps that ends with access to a remote system. Let's walk the chain. Step 1. Identify the vulnerability. Step 2. Determine the risk it carries. Step 3. Determine its capability. What can it actually let you do? Step 4. Develop the exploit. Step 5. Choose your delivery method, local or remote. Step 6. Generate and deliver the payload. And Step 7. Gain remote access. Notice this is methodical. You don't just fire an exploit and hope. You understand the weakness, you build for it, you deliver it deliberately. We'll define a few of those words, payload, exploit, properly in a few minutes. Phase 4. Maintaining access, also called persistence. You've gotten in, but access you can't return to isn't worth much. So an attacker installs mechanisms to keep control and get back in whenever they want. Here are the common ones. Keyloggers capture keystrokes. Spyware silently monitors activity. Backdoors are hidden re-entry points that bypass normal login. Rootkits conceal the attacker's presence down at the operating system level. NTF streams hide data inside file streams where you wouldn't think to look. And steganography conceals data inside ordinary-looking files like tucking information inside an image. As a defender, this is your reminder that the breach isn't the end of the story. What gets left behind is often the bigger problem. Phase 5, the final one, covering tracks. Once an intruder has administrator access, the next move is to erase the evidence and avoid detection. The techniques include disabling auditing so nothing gets recorded, clearing logs, manipulating logs to hide specific entries, covering tracks across the network and the OS, deleting files and hiding artifacts, and disabling Windows functionality that might catch them. Here's why this matters to you as a defender. Every one of these is also a detection opportunity. If your logs suddenly go quiet, or auditing gets switched off, that itself is a signal. Knowing how attackers hide is exactly how you learn to spot them. Before we get into terminology, one slide on mindset, because this is the heart of it. Think like a criminal mastermind. Behave like a professional. The skills are genuinely the same on both sides of the line. The difference is never the technique. It's the ethics, the authorization, and the intent behind it. You're going to spend this course learning to think exactly like an attacker. That's the only way to defend against one. Just never forget which side of the line you're standing on. All right, we've walked the whole life cycle. Now let's lock down the vocabulary, because these words get thrown around loosely and you need them precise. 6 terms. A vulnerability is a flaw in design, in code, or in logic in the target system. Exploit it, and you can disclose confidential information or get the system to run your code. An exploit is the piece of code that takes advantage of that vulnerability to do something malicious. So the relationship is simple. The vulnerability is the unlocked window. The exploit is the act of climbing through it. One is the weakness, the other is the technique that abuses it. Next, the payload. An exploit gets you in, it leverages the vulnerability. But to actually achieve something, you need a payload. The payload is the code that runs on the target once you're there. That might be opening a shell, loading a backdoor, or just running a single command. See the example on screen, launching calcs.exe, the calculator, on the target. That looks trivial, but it's a classic, benign proof of concept. If you can pop the calculator on a remote machine, you've proven you can run commands on it, without doing any actual harm. That's exactly the kind of clean, non-destructive evidence you want in a penetration test report. The term exploitation ties those together. Exploitation is establishing access to a system, a machine, or a resource by bypassing its security restrictions. For a pen tester, in plain terms, that means getting to the point where you can run commands on the machine. In one line, it's making the target do something on behalf of the attacker, by turning its own vulnerabilities against it. Last two terms, and people constantly mix these up. Encoders. An encoder encodes your exploit and payload, hoping a signature-based antivirus simply won't recognize them. But remember how that antivirus works? It matches files against a database of known threats and runs extra checks. So encoders have only a limited success rate. Encoding alone is not a magic cloak. Evasion is the important distinction. Encoding a payload is not, by itself, an attempt to evade antivirus. Evasion modules are different. They deliberately try to slip past AV software with varying degrees of success. So, encoding changes how the payload looks. Evasion is actively trying to defeat the defender. Different goals. And that's the methodology. You now have the whole map of an engagement, recon, scan, gain access, maintain access, cover tracks, plus the vocabulary to talk about it precisely. So now we put it to work. Head into your Kali lab and we'll start running this for real, one phase at a time. And the one rule that never bends, only ever test what you are authorized to test. Let's get hands-on. In this video, we will talk about Google, Dorking, and other search engines that are essential for OSINT. Search engines are online tools that enable users to access information from the internet. They play a crucial role in open-source intelligence by facilitating efficient and effective information retrieval from publicly available resources. Search engines empower practitioners with rapid access to diverse information, enhancing the process of gathering insights from publicly accessible resources. Some of the benefits of using search engines in OSINT are: they can be used for cross-referencing and comparing information from multiple sources to validate facts and patterns. They can be used for monitoring. We can use them to continuously track keywords, topics, or individuals for ongoing awareness. They can be used to extract hidden information and anomaly detection, and also for supporting the decisions by gathering insights from various sources. Now let's see, what is Google Dorking? Google Hacking or Dorking utilizes Google Advanced Search Engine features, which allow you to pick up custom content. You can, for instance, pick out results from a certain domain name using the site filter, or you can use different filters that are listed. The Google Hacking Database is an index of search queries used to find publicly accessible information intended for pen testers and security researchers. You can go to the website and you can get all types of Google Dorks, including the Dorks for vulnerability research and finding the vulnerable websites. In addition to Google Dorks, Google also has a feature called Google Advanced Search. It is a specialized search feature and provides the use of different filters that allow users to refine their search queries to find more precise and specific results. It offers a range of tools beyond the basic search bar, enabling users to tailor their searches based on various criteria. Now, let's see the demonstration. Normally, in any search engine, we search for any term. For example, let's search for CEH on Google, and we get a bunch of information. We get information from different domains, including the official domain and some other domains as well. Now let's assume that we want to get information about CEH from the official website only. Now we can use the site filter and tell it that we want the information from eccouncil.org only. Search it, and you can see that we only get the results from the same official domain. Now let's suppose that we want to get information about what people are discussing on Reddit. So use the filter site reddit.com and we get the Reddit board links. Similarly, we can also search for the PDF documents with the name of CEH. Use the search filter file type to specify the file format. And see that we have the PDF documents now, including the brochures, exam, blueprints, etc. Now let's suppose that we want to find all login pages of a single domain. We can use the query, login, and specify the domain. And you can see that for EC Council, we have found some login pages for the official websites, the site code Red and iLabs, etc. You can also enumerate subdomains of a website. Use the filter -www and we get a bunch of subdomains. Google dorking can also be used for vulnerability research. For example, you can use the dork that is shown here to search for all SQL injection vulnerable websites having PK in their domain. You can query Google Hacking Database to query all types of Google dorks. For example, let's just use the second dork, which looks for password text files. And you can see that we get a bunch of URLs. You can click on any one and can see that there is a parse text file with some data in it. Now, let's see Google Advanced Search. Once you query on Google, you get the results. You can filter these results with types such as images, videos, etc. You can click on the gear icon on the top right corner and go to the Advanced Search. Here you can specify some specific parameters for Advanced Search. For example, we can specify that we want the exact phrase. We can specify the language and domain as well. And we get our results. Now let's see some other search engines. The other major search engine is Bing, whereas the Yandex is a Russian search engine, and Baidu, the Chinese search engine. And if you are looking to preserve your privacy, you can use DuckDuckGo. These engines help us to look at the information from different angles and can often reveal hidden information that is not available on Google. For example, we can search for CEH certification on Bing, and we will get the results that were not visible in Google, including some courses from Simplilearn and Udemy as well. You can go to DuckDuckGo and search for anything. Similarly, you can make use of Yandex and Baidu. These search engines are specifically useful when you are looking for information on Chinese and Russian websites. So in this manner, we can use search engines for our advantage and end and gather basic information about the target. In this video, we are going to see how we can use digital certificates for passive reconnaissance. We are trying to find subdomains of websites that may be using the same digital certificate. Digital certificates are primarily used to ensure the security and authenticity of websites. They help to establish a secure connection between a user browser and the website they are trying to access by verifying that website is legitimate and encrypting the data that is exchanging between the two parties. However, they can also be used to discover subdomains of website. When a certificate is issued for a specific domain, it is typically issued for that domain and any of its subdomains. Therefore, by searching for the certificate issued to a particular domain, it is possible to discover subdomains that are associated with that domain. Now let's see some digital certificates. Search engines. The first website is a cert.sh, which allows searching with domain name and organization name, etc. The second is nTrustSearch, which allows searching for partial as well as expired certificates. The third, but not the least, is Census. Census is a search engine for all internet-connected devices and has a separate functionality to search for digital certificates. Let's just see them one by one. So we are on cert.sh website. Now you can search any domain, for example, packwheels.com, and we will get all the historical records. If you look closely, you will see that different subdomains have also been mentioned, like status.packwheel.com, shell.parkwiz.com, and the issuing authority is also mentioned. The website has been using Let's Encrypt, GoDaddy, and Cloudflare certificates. Now let's see the other website. Click on Include, Expired Certificates and Subdomains. Then search for packwheels.com. The certificates are presented in an organized manner. We can see that the latest certificates that it is using are of Amazon. It has been using certificates from Amazon, Cloudflare, GoDaddy, and Let's Encrypt. And we can also see some of the subdomains. Now let's see the Census website. Go to the website and change the search option to certificates. Now type in the domain. So we get a list of certificates, and the different domains are also listed, like status.com. And we can also see some of the issuing authorities. So in this manner, we can use digital certificates to passively recon a target. In this video, we are going to see some scan types. There are a number of scan types that Nmap supports. We are going to see only the most popular ones. Ping scan is used to scan for the live hosts on the network. Just use the command with the SN flag, and it will tell us which hosts are up. For example, in Kali machine, let us scan a test network. Just use the command as shown on the screen. Nmap will scan the complete network for live hosts, and we can see a couple of hosts in the target network. The second is the TCP Connect scan. TCP scan will scan for TCP ports and ensure for listening port through a three-way handshake connection between the source and destination port. It can be launched with the flagged ST. The scan does take longer and requires more packets to obtain the same information, but targeted machines are more likely to log this connection. To launch this attack, go to the Kali machine and launch the scan with the ST flag. and Nmap will provide a detailed report along with the open ports. The third and the most popular scan type is TCP SYN scan. This scan is often referred to as half-open scanning because you don't open a full TCP connection. You send a SYN packet as if you are going to open a real connection and then wait for a response. This can be run with SS flag. SYN scan is the default and most popular scan option for good reasons. It can be performed quickly, scanning thousands of ports per second on a fast network not hampered by restrictive firewalls. Now on your Kali machine, just launch the scan with the SS flag. But you need to have the root privileges to launch this type of scan. Just give the command again, the sudo, and Nmap will scan the target. The next scan type is the UDP scan. UDP scan works by sending a UDP packet to every targeted port. For most ports, this packet will be empty, no payload. But for a few of the more common ports, a protocol-specific payload will be sent. This is launched by SU flag. As UDP is connectionless protocol, and there is no protocol-defined relationship between packets in either direction. However, most OS TCP IP stacks will return an ICMP port unreachable packet if a UDP packet is sent to a closed UDP port. Thus, a port that doesn't return an ICMP packet can be assumed open. Neither the probe packet nor its potential ICMP packet are guaranteed to arrive. Normally, if any response is received, the port is assigned the state of open. If no response is received, it is classified as open filtered, and if we receive ICMP port unreachable error type 3, code 3, it is classified as closed, and other ICMP unreachable errors are classified as filtered. Now let us launch the UDP scan against our target. Just give the target IP and SU flag to Nmap. It will scan the target, and it will show all UDP ports that are open. The next scan is fin scan. It is one of the port scanning methods that uses the sheer stupidity of the old and stateless firewalls. In fact, when it comes to fin scan, our port scanner software sends a packet with a flag in the form of fin, meaning the end of the session, to the destination firewall or host. If no response is received, it means that the port is open, and if the return is reset or ACK, it means that the server port is closed. A fin bit is used to terminate the connection between the source and destination port, typically after the data transfer is complete. However, rather than even pretending to initiate a standard reconnection, Nmap sends a single failed fin packet to the target. If the target is RFC 793 compliant, then open port will drop the packet and closed port will send a reset. You can launch a fin scan by SF flag. I'm also giving a T5 flag to speed up the scanning process. Then you can see that we have the result in the form of open filtered ports. The other scans are null and XMAS scans and work in a similar fashion as fin scans. In XMAS scans, SYN, urgent, and fin flags are set, while in null scan, a series of TCP packets with sequences 0 is sent to the target with no flag set. You can launch a null scan with SN flag. Whereas an XMAS scan is launched with the help of SX flag. There you can see the port states. Nmap has a variety of scan types, and you can check these types in the Nmap cheat sheet that I have shared. However, the most popular ones that are in use are version detection and host detection, which are launched by -A flag and -O flag. So let's scan our target for the last time and check the different versions of the services that are running on the system. -A will check the system for the most popular options, including OS detection and version detection, and SC will check the latest Nmap scripts. And you can see that this report is more detailed than our previous scans, and we can exactly see different versions of the different services that are running on the system. Now, you can go ahead and scan your target with different scan types and analyze the results. Enumeration in penetration testing involves actively querying identified services and systems to gather detailed information such as user accounts, shares, and configurations. This step aims to provide deeper insights into the target environment's vulnerabilities and potential attack vectors for exploitation. As we have a number of ports open on the target, we can use different enumeration tools on our target. NBT scan can be used to scan the complete subnet and determine machine names with NetBIOS enumeration. And here we can see that our target's NetBIOS name is Metasploitable. We also have a NetBIOS enumeration script in Nmap. If we run it against our target, we can get complete information about our target, including machine name and workgroup information as shown. Now, let us use some SMB enumeration tools. Nmap has various scripts for SMB enumeration. We can enumerate the exact version of OS with the SMB OS discovery module. We also get the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name of the target. Similarly, we can enumerate shares on a system with an SMB client tool. Here, we can see a few shares on our target. We can further get more information about the shares with the SMB map tool. Here, it tells us that the TMP share on our target is writable, which we can exploit. enum4. Linux is a multi-purpose tool that can enumerate every kind of information from our target with a single command. You can see that in the output we have information about the users present on the target, the shares, and all kinds of useful information about our target. Similarly, we can enumerate users from the SMTP service running on port 25. Connect with the port with Netcat. Now, we can check whether a user is present on the target or not with the verify command. Here, we can see that admin is not available. However, we do have the root and MSF admin users on our target. Metasploit also has a module to enumerate users from SMTP. So, launch Metasploit. Search for SMTP user enumeration module. Load the module with the use command. Now, set the target IP address. Now, run it and wait for a few seconds. And here we have a list of all users available on the target. Similarly, We can also list the mountable drives with the show mount command. Here we can see that we can directly mount the root directory. So, in this section, we have seen a few tools to enumerate our target. We can use the information obtained from scanning and enumeration modules to exploit our target. In this task, we will perform vulnerability research in Common Weakness Enumeration Database. Common Weakness Enumeration is a category system for software vulnerabilities and weaknesses. It has numerous categories of weaknesses, which means that CWE can be effectively employed by the community as a baseline for weakness identification, mitigation, and prevention efforts. Further, CWE has an advanced search technique with which you can search and view the weaknesses based on research concepts, development concepts, and architectural concepts. Here, we will use CWE to view the latest underlying system vulnerabilities. Now, let us move towards the demonstration part. Launch any browser. Here, we are using Mozilla Firefox. Now browse to cwe.mitre.org. The CWE website will load up. Click on the Search tab, and now search for SMB. The search results appear, displaying the underlying vulnerabilities in the SMB service. You can click any link to view detailed information on the vulnerability. Let us click CWE 284 to view detailed information about the vulnerability. You can now see detailed information regarding the vulnerability. You can scroll down further to view more information. Now, click on Home to navigate back to the CWE website and click the CWE list. Scroll down, and under the External Mapping section, click CWE Top 25. A web page appears, displaying 2023 Top 25 Most Dangerous Software Weaknesses. This information can be used to exploit the vulnerabilities in the software and further launch attacks. So, using CWE database, an attacker can find vulnerabilities on the services running on the target systems and further exploit them to launch attacks. In this video, we are going to see how to perform vulnerability research in the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures database. Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, or CVE, is a publicly available and free-to-use list or dictionary of standardized identifiers for common software vulnerabilities and exposures. It is used to discuss or share information about a unique software or firmware vulnerability. It provides a baseline for tool evaluation and enables data exchange for cybersecurity automation. Here, we will use CVE to view the latest underlying system and software vulnerabilities. Let us move towards the demonstration part. Open your web browser. Browse to cve.mitre.org. CVE website appears. On the right side, you can see the link to subscribe to the RSS feed for the newest CVE records that you can subscribe. Below the section, there is another link to the newest CVE records database, which you can use to browse the latest vulnerabilities discovered. From the main menu, click Search CVE List. Here you can search for any vulnerability that you want information on and get its details. For example, let us assume that we came to know a vulnerability, CVE 2021-4034, in our target system during a vulnerability scan. We can search for the vulnerability here, and here we can see all its details. We can also search the database by service type. For example, search for SMB and here we can see CVE lists that are relevant to SMB services. In this manner, we can look for a vulnerability in the CVE database and get detailed information about it. In this video, we are going to see how to perform vulnerability research in National Vulnerability Database. The National Vulnerability Database, or NVD, is the U.S. government repository of standards-based vulnerability management data represented using the Security Content Automation Protocol. This data enables the automation of vulnerability management, security measurement, and compliance. The NVD includes databases of security checklist references, security-related software flaws, misconfigurations, product names, and impact metrics. In this video, we will use the NVD to view the latest underlying system and software vulnerabilities. Let's now see the demonstration. Open Mozilla Firefox web browser. Now browse to the NVD official website. On the main page, you are going to see the list of top vulnerabilities in recent times. You can click on the CVE ID link to view detailed information about the vulnerability. Here, you will find the description of the vulnerability, the severity score, and other details like vulnerable software and important links. You can click on the severity score and view the CVSS details. A new web page appears, displaying information such as base scores, temporal score, and environmental score overall score related to a vulnerability in graphical form, under Common Vulnerability Scoring System Calculator. You can get information about the attack vector of the vulnerability and impact metrics details of how it affects confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, go back to the main page. Under the Vulnerability section, you can click on Full Listings. Here, the vulnerabilities are grouped by years. You can click on any year and get the full list of vulnerabilities in that year. Similarly, from the main page, under the search, you can click on Vulnerability Search. Here you can search for any keyword, for example, SMB. And we get a list of all CVEs related to SMB service. This concludes the demonstration of checking vulnerabilities in the National Vulnerability Database. There are multiple tools available for vulnerability assessment. SearchSploit is the simple command line utility in Kali Linux to search the ExploitDB database. And Nessus is a vulnerability scanning tool that scans a computer, raises an alert if it discovers any vulnerabilities that malicious hacker could use. It is available for both Windows as well as Kali systems, which is a paid tool, but it is the most widely used scanner on the market. SearchSploit comes pre-installed with Kali. Supply the version number of the application to it, and it lists all vulnerabilities of the particular application version. Nessus has a trial version. However, the trial version allows scanning up to 16 IP addresses. To install Nessus, visit the official Nessus website. Download and install it. Select to conduct a basic scan. Give a target and start the scan. Nessus will scan the target and provide a complete report. Now, let's see the actual demonstration. The Metasploitable machine is running VSFTP version 2, 3.4, which you can confirm by scanning the machine. Just use the command and search the version number of the service. and you can see that it has provided us a list of all the exploits available. You could also check all exploits of an application by searching with just the application name, and you can see that there are different exploits available for different versions. Now, let's see the Nessus scan. Once you've downloaded and installed it, click on Basic Network Scan. Give it a name and provide the target IP. And save the scan. Now launch the scan. Nessus will scan the target for all potential vulnerabilities. It provides a detailed report that can be used by hackers as well as security professionals to harden the system. Go to the Vulnerabilities tab, and you can see that it has 13 critical vulnerabilities available. Nessus also tells us if some exploit is available for a vulnerability or not. This is all for this lecture.
In this lecture, we are going to see what is Metasploit and how we can hack Windows 10 with Metasploit. Metasploit framework is a set of tools that allow information gathering, scanning, exploitation, exploit development, post-exploitation, and much more. While the primary usage of Metasploit framework focuses on pen testing domain, it is also useful for vulnerability research and exploit development. Metasploit has three major components. MSF console is the main command line interface. Then there are modules, the core components which includes exploits, payloads, and scanners, etc. Third are the tools. These are the standalone tools that help vulnerability research, vulnerability assessment, or pen testing. For example, MSF Venom. Metasploit comes pre-installed with Kali. Now let's see how we can hack Windows 10 with Metasploit. First of all, we need to scan the target. Run Nmap to locate the target and check for open ports. Give the command as shown on the screen. Nmap is the name of scanner we are using. A flag is used to gather most important information about the target, including OS, versions, etc. SC flag runs Nmap default scripts against the target. We are going to cover Nmap in detail in our future lectures. So once we have scanned the target, we will know exactly what type of system we are trying to hack and what are open ports on it. The second step is to start MSF console. Now search for Eternal Blue exploit and use the command as shown to use the particular module. Now set rhost to set the target and set lhost as your Kali machine IP. Now execute the exploit and you will gain a Metasploiter session. Metasploiter is essentially an attack platform that gets injected into the memory of a running process. Thus, it avoids detection by intrusion detection systems as well as bypass the limitation of operating system native command shell. It can be used to perform different actions on the machine, which includes taking screenshot, get a live screen of the target, view webcam, record keystrokes, or get a shell, etc. Now let's see the actual demonstration. So here we are on our target machine and we can check the IP address of the machine with ipconfig command. Now on the Kali attack box, run nmap scan against the target. Use the command as shown on the screen. It will gather all information about the target. So we can see that port 445 is open and it is a Windows 10 system. Now open another terminal and launch Metasploit with msf console command. Now look for Eternal Blue exploits. Here we are going to use MS17010 PS exec module for Eternal Blue. Normally we need to set the payload, but in this case it has already defaulted our payload to Windows Metasploiter reverse TCP. Now give the option command to check all other options that we need to provide. Now you need to set the R host as your target IP and set L host as your Kali IP machine IP. Now give the command of exploit. And you can see that we have gained access to the machine remotely. Now we can run different commands. We can see the processes running on the target machine. We can take a screenshot if you want. If you get an error, it means you do not have the necessary privileges. Let's migrate to some other process. Here I am migrating to Explorer process. And now let's try to take screenshot again. So move the screenshot to your home directory. And open it. And you can see that we have successfully taken the screenshot. Similarly, we can perform some other actions against our target as well, which we are going to cover in our next lectures. I hope you like this lecture and see you in the next lecture.
In this video, we will learn different techniques for hacking Metasploitable from Kali Linux. We will start from scanning, then perform enumeration, and in the last, we'll hack our Metasploitable target with 10 different ways. Scanning and penetration testing involves using tools like Nmap to discover active hosts, open ports, and running services, enabling the identification of potential vulnerabilities and forming the basis for further testing and analysis. Normally, SynScan is the first scan that we perform on our target. It scans for all TCP ports on the target. However, to ensure that we scanned all TCP ports, we have added a -p- flag. Similarly, we have added flags for version enumeration -sv and for running default scripts -sc. And here we have our scanning results. We can see different services open on the port. We also need to run a UDP scan on the target to list services that utilize UDP protocol instead. So, use the command as shown on the screen. Specify the UDP scan with the -su flag. And we can see that a few UDP services are also running on our target. There are also other multiple scan types available, but we have not intentionally covered these as the SynScan and the UDP scan are the most essential types of scans when engaging in a penetration test. Enumeration in penetration testing involves actively querying identified services and systems to gather detailed information, such as user accounts, shares, and configurations. This step aims to provide deeper insights into the target environment's vulnerabilities and potential attack vectors for exploitation. As we have a number of ports open on the target, we can use different enumeration tools on our target. NBT scan can be used to scan the complete subnet and determine machine names with NetBIOS enumeration. And here we can see that our target's NetBIOS name is Metasploitable. We also have a NetBIOS enumeration script in Nmap. If we run it against our target, we can get complete information about our target, including machine name and workgroup information as shown. Now, let us use some SMB enumeration tools. Nmap has various scripts for SMB enumeration. We can enumerate the exact version of OS with the SMB OS Discovery module. We also get the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name of the target. Similarly, we can enumerate shares on a system with an SMB client tool. Here, we can see a few shares on our target. We can further get more information about the shares with the SMB map tool. Here, it tells us that the TMP share on our target is writable, which we can exploit. Enum for Linux is a multi-purpose tool that can enumerate every kind of information from our target with a single command. You can see that in the output, we have information about the users present on the target, the shares, and all kinds of useful information about our target. Similarly, we can enumerate users from the SMTP service running on port 25. Connect with the port with Netcat. Now, we can check whether a user is present on the target or not with the verify command. Here, we can see that admin is not available. However, we do have the root and MSF admin users on our target. Metasploit also has a module to enumerate users from SMTP. So, launch Metasploit. Search for SMTP user enumeration module. Load the module with the use command. Now, set the target IP address. Now, run it and wait for a few seconds. And here we have a list of all users available on the target. Similarly, we can also list the mountable drives with the show mount command. Here, we can see that we can directly mount the root directory. So, in this section, we have seen a few tools to enumerate our target. We can use the information obtained from scanning and enumeration modules to exploit our target. We will see different techniques in this section to hack into our target.
In this video, we are going to exploit port 21 on our Metasploitable machine. We will exploit this manually as well as use scripts to exploit the vulnerability. Let us first scan port 21 with the vulner script. We can see that we have VSFTPD service running on the port and we have a few exploits as well. We can also use the vuln scan to further scan the target. And here we have a more detailed result. We can see that in results that it indicates that the service is backdoored. Let us try to connect to the service and exploit it. Use the command FTP to connect to the IP address. The target will ask for the username. The trick is to add a smiley face emoticon at the end of the username. It opens a backdoor on port 6200, which we can then connect to. Use the blank password for connection. Now, port 6200 will get opened on our target. Open another terminal and connect to the backdoor port and you can see that we are connected and we can run different commands. Now let us exploit the vulnerability with exploit scripts. Use searchsploit to look for the VSFTPD version exploits. We have two scripts. We have a Python script and a Metasploit script. Let us use the Python script first. Mirror it with searchsploit. Make the script executable and now use Python 2 to run the script. Provide the target IP address as the argument. And we can see that we have the terminal and we can run commands on our target. Now, let us use Metasploit to exploit the same vulnerability. Launch Metasploit framework. Search for VSFTPD. We have the exploit module. Select the backdoor exploit module. You can view the options required with the command show options. Set your target with the command setter hosts and the IP address. Now run the exploit. And we have a shell on the target. So, in this manner, we can attack port 21 on the Metasploitable machine.
Port 445 is often open due to its association with Microsoft's Server Message Block Protocol, utilized for file sharing, printer services, and remote administration within Windows networks. It's commonly paired with ports 137 and 139 for comprehensive network access management. Let us run the service enumeration, the vulners, and the vuln nmap scanned against the target. Here, we can see that the service running on the port is Samba version 3.0 to 4.0. As we did not get the exact version of the SMB service, we can try the Metasploit auxiliary module to check the SMB version. So, launch Metasploit. Look for SMB modules. We have a version detection auxiliary module available. Now load it. Provide the IP address as our host. Now run it. We can see that it has identified the exact service version of SMB service, which is 3.0.20 Debian. We can search for the exploits of this vulnerability with searchsploit. Here, we can see in the results that there is a Metasploit remote code execution module named user map available. Let us look for the module in Metasploit. We can see the module has an excellent rating. Load the module with the use command. We only have to set the target to get the module to work. Set the target IP with set our hosts command. Now run the module. And we have a shell on the target, and we can run all kinds of commands. Now, let us look at the second way to exploit the SMB service. We can use SMB client to list down all shares available on the target. We can see a share named TMP available, and we can also see that we can connect to the target anonymously. Let us try to connect with the TMP share. And we are connected. We can use the help command to list down the actions we can perform. We can even get a shell with logon command. First, open a netcat listener on our machine. Then run the logon command. And we have a shell. And we can run all shell commands. TCP ports 512, 513, and 514 are known as our services and have been misconfigured to allow remote access from any host. Let us scan our target to see if these ports are open. We can see that these ports are open. We do have a tool called our login in our Kali Linux, which we can use to connect to the target. So, use the shown command to connect to the target. And you can see that we do have a shell on our target. Java RMI, Remote Method Invocation, is a Java API that facilitates communication between distributed Java programs. Let us scan the port 1099 with the Nmap Vuln script scan. We can see that the Java RMI service running on the port is vulnerable. To exploit the vulnerability, start MSF console. Search for Java RMI. We have a module to exploit Java RMI registry. Load the module with the use command. Set the target with our hosts command. Now, run the exploit. And we have a meterpreter shell.
In this video, we are going to exploit a backdoor that is running on port 1524 on Metasploitable machine. Let us run a quick Nmap scan on our target. We can see that we have a bind shell running on the port. We can now use netcat and try connecting to it. And now we can run different Linux commands for further exploitation.
Port 2049 is associated with the network file system, allowing clients to access files over a network. It's crucial for facilitating file sharing between clients and servers. Let us run a quick Nmap scan against the target, and we can see that the port is open. To mount NFS share, first, we need to create a temporary directory. Now, we can mount the NFS share in our newly created directory. We can use the mount command as shown to mount the shared drive. Now, we can move into the directory and access all files from our target system. The dist-ccd service running on port 3632 is for compiler jobs across a farm of like-configured systems. The problem with this service is that an attacker can easily abuse it to run a command of their choice. The Nmap Vuln scan shows that the service is vulnerable. We can now use Metasploit to exploit the service. So, launch Metasploit. Search for dist-ccd. We can see that we have an exploit. Load the exploit with the use command. We can see the list of payloads supported with the command show payloads. Let us use the Unix Ruby bind payload. Now set your target IP as our hosts. The last step is to execute the exploit command. And we can see that we have a shell. We have a PostgreSQL service running on port 5432. Let us scan the port in detail with Nmap service enumeration and vulners scan. The version of PostgreSQL service running on the port is too old, and we can see a lot of vulnerabilities and exploits in our Nmap results. We can exploit the service with Metasploit. So, start up MSF console. Search for Postgres. Here, we have an exploit for PostgreSQL service on Linux. Load the exploit with use command. Set the target with set our hosts command. We also need to provide our attacking machine IP address. Set lhost as your Kali machine IP. Now, run the exploit. And we have a Meterpreter shell.
Port 5900 is one of the ports that is open on the target. The port is used by the VNC service by default. Let us run the service enumeration and vuln script against the target. We can see that we have a VNC service running on the port. The port is open. However, we have not found any vulnerabilities. To brute force VNC, let us run Metasploit. Once Metasploit starts, search for VNC auxiliary modules. We are going to use the VNC login auxiliary module. Copy the module name and load it with the use command. We can see the requirements for running this module with the show options command. Here, we need to provide the username and password list. Metasploit sets its default word list for pass list. Let us try to brute force the password for root. So set it as the target user. Now, set the target your target IP. Now, run the module. And here we can see that we have found the password. We can now use the found credential to get a VNC session on the target. Use the command VNC viewer and the target IP. Provide the credentials, and here we have a session. So, we have successfully exploited the VNC service on the target. In our Nmap scan, we had seen that port 6667 was open. Let us run the vuln script against the port. And we can see that the port is running the Trojanized version of Unreal IRCD. If we search the service with Searchsploit, we can see that we have an exploit for it available on Metasploit. So, launch Metasploit. Search for Unreal, and we can see a few modules. Select the Unreal Backdoor exploit. You can see the options required by the command show options. Now set your target by the command set our hosts and the IP address. Now we need to select the payload. Use the command show payloads to list down supported. I am going to select the Ruby bind shell payload. Now, run the exploit. And we can see that we have the shell. And we can run all kinds of commands.
In this video, we are going to see how we can install DAM vulnerable web application on Kali Linux. DVWA, or DAM vulnerable web application, is a web application intentionally designed to be vulnerable to various security vulnerabilities. It is often used as training and learning tool to learn about web application security and for testing the effectiveness of web application security tools. DVWA contains several types of vulnerabilities, including SQL injection, file inclusion, cross-site, request forgery, insecure direct object reference, and many more. You should be on Kali Linux or Parrot OS in VMware VirtualBox or running natively on your PC. So, in step 1, we can simply install DVWA in an automated manner with Kali repositories. Just use the command sudo apt install DVWA, and Kali will automatically install it. Once installed, you can use the command dvwa-start. Now use the default credentials, which are admin and password, to log into the web interface. A setup page will open. Scroll down and click on Create Reset the Database, and your setup will complete. Now you can access DVWA and start your web pen testing. Once done, you can stop DVWA with the command dvwa-stop. Now let's practically install DVWA. So back on your Kali Linux, open a new terminal. And use the command sudo apt install DVWA. It will ask for your password, and it will automatically start installing DVWA. Once installed, use the command dvwa-start. It will ask for your password again. Just use the default Kali credentials. A login page will appear. Just use the default credentials to log in. Now click on Create Reset Database. Now all configurations will be completed, and the login page will appear again. Use the same credentials as before. And you have successfully installed DVWA in an automated manner on Kali Linux with very few commands. On the left-hand side, you can see different types of attacks that you can practice. You can change the security levels from security, which are available in low, medium, high, and impossible categories. You can also check the instruction manual. And once you are done with web application security testing, you can stop it with DVWA-stop command. In this video, we are going to see what is brute forcing and how we can practice brute forcing with damn vulnerable web application. We are going to solve brute forcing challenges on DVWA with Burp. Brute forcing is a technique used in computer science to try a large number of possibilities, such as passwords or keys, in order to find the correct one. It involves trying every possible combination until the correct one is found. We will use Burp Suite to brute force the login form provided by DVWA. In this challenge, we will test a password list against the user and try to log in as the target user. Now let's first see the low difficulty brute forcing challenge. Go to Settings and set the difficulty to low. Now fire up the Burp Suite in your Kali Linux. Set the proxy in your Firefox to use Burp as a proxy. You can also use the Foxy Proxy add-on to set the Burp proxy. To submit a request from Firefox to log in with the wrong credentials, the complete request will be shown in the Burp. Now right-click on it and send it to the Intruder module. In the Intruder module, clear all targets and locate the password file and add it as a target. Now in the Payloads tab, you can set the word list. I'm using john.list. Now start the attack. Burp will try to brute force it. Keep looking for the response size. The response with the changed response size will be our matched password. Now let's get to the practical part. So on your machine, you can see the DVWA web application. Just change the security level to low. Now select the Brute Force tab, and you can see a login form. If you try to log in with the wrong credentials, you will get the error that username and password are incorrect. And if you look at the address, you will see the complete URL, which indicates that it is a GET request. We can also get the complete URL from the Network tab. Just inspect the page, go to the Network tab, and you can see the complete URL. Now start the Burp Suite. Create a temporary project. And go to the Proxy tab. Now set the Firefox to use Burp as proxy. If you have Foxy Proxy add-on installed, you can just click on Burp. Now turn the intercept on in Burp and send a request from Firefox, and the request will be captured in Burp. Now, right-click on the request and send it to the intruder. Now clear all targets. Choose the password field and add it as target. Now in the Payloads tab, select your word list. I'm using john.list in this case. And now start the attack. Burp will start cracking the password. Keep an eye on the Length tab. You can sort the responses by length size by clicking on Length tab. You can see that the password payload has a changed length size, which means that it is our correct password. you can check it in the Response tab. And you can see that we have received the response that says, "Welcome to the password protected area." Now let's just solve the medium difficulty brute forcing challenge. The medium difficulty adds a delay between different attempts and can be solved in a similar fashion, but the attack will be much slower. Just capture a new request and send it to the intruder and brute force it in a similar fashion. You will notice that only the cookie value has changed to medium and the attack is much slower. Now on your Kali Linux, change the difficulty to medium. Go to the Brute Force tab. You can also view the source code. And you can see that only the sanitization of user input is being performed. And the other thing is that it is adding a delay of 2 seconds. Now in Burp, turn the intercept on and capture a new request. Send it to the intruder. Clear our targets and use the password field as the target only. Set your payload as john.list file. And start the attack. Burp will start cracking the password. But you can see that our responses are much slower. And Burp has successfully cracked the password, which is password in this case. Now let's solve the high difficulty brute forcing challenge. In high difficulty, a CSRF token is generated for each request, so it becomes very difficult to brute force through it. Now generate a new request and send it to a Burp proxy. Following the same steps, send it to the intruder. In the intruder, we need to perform a few additional steps. Select both the password and token fields as targets. Now, change attack type to pitchfork attack. Now in Payload section for Target 1, select the same john.list file. For the second payload, select to use recursive grep. Now in the Options tab, add a new grep extract and select the token to extract it. Ensure that the redirections are set to Always. Now in the Resource pool, create a new pool with only one thread and start the attack. The Burp will find the password, which will have a change response length. Now let's see the attack in action. Back on your Kali Linux DVWA, change the difficulty to high. If you look at the source code, you will see that it first of all checks for anti-CSRF token. So in Burp, turn the intercept on. Send a new login request, capture it in Burp. Forward to the intruder. Change the attack type to pitchfork. Select the password field as your first target and token field as your second target. Now go to the Payload section. Now choose john.list as your first payload list. For the second payload set, change the type to recursive grep. Now go into the Options tab. In the grep extract section, click to add a new grep extract. A new window will open. Click on Fetch Response. Find the generated token and highlight it. Now choose the option to start at offset and end at fixed length, and click OK. Now in grep match section, clear the existing list. Add incorrect as the response as we receive password incorrect response in case of a wrong password. Scroll down and set the redirections to always. Now go to the tab of Resource Pool. Now create a new resource pool and set the threads to 1. And click on Start Attack. And you will see that Burp will start cracking the password. And in a few seconds, it will crack our password. The attack is much slower, but it will still work, and we can see that it has found our password. In this video, we are going to see what is an SQL injection attack, and we are going to solve the SQL injection challenges on damn vulnerable web application. SQL injection is a type of attack in which an attacker injects malicious code into a website's SQL statement and gains access to sensitive information or performs malicious actions on the database. This is typically done by manipulating input fields in a web application that is connected to a database, such as a login form or a search box, in such a way as to trick the application into executing unintended SQL commands. SQL injection attacks can allow attackers to bypass authentication, access, modify, or delete sensitive data, or even execute commands on the operating system. They can also be used to create new user accounts with high privileges or to perform other malicious actions. In step 1, go to Settings and set the difficulty to low. If we put any data in the box, it will list down all information in the specific category. We can manually use complex commands to list all information, but we are going to use SQL Map to automate the process. First of all, intercept a normal request with Burp and save it in a text document. Now launch SQL Map with the given command. Now to get more information about the tables of a particular database, we can use the command with --tables flag. Similarly, we can get column information of any table by adding --column flag. And in the end, we can dump all data with --dump all flag. Now, let's see the actual demonstration. So on your application, open the SQL Injection tab and type the command as shown on the screen. It will list down all the entries. Now fire up Burp. While Burp is starting up, we can see that if we put any ID in the user ID field, we get its information. And if you use the command as shown on the screen, we get the information of all the users. So in Burp, turn the intercept on, capture the new request with Burp, right-click it and save it in a text document. Now on your terminal, you can check the help of SQL map with -h flag. Which will list down all available options that you can use with SQL map. Now start SQL map with the request document that you have saved, and it will list down all available databases. Now to get more information about the DVWA database, we can use the -- tables flag, and it will list down the tables that are there in the target database. You can also check the columns of the table with -- columns flag, and similarly we can dump all data from a table with -- dump all flag. SQL map will also prompt if you want to crack the hashes, and if you say yes, it will try to crack all the hashes with default dictionary. After a few moments, all the data will be displayed. In this video, we will go through medium and high difficulty SQL injection challenges on DAM vulnerable web application. In the previous video on SQL injection, we have already seen that if we put any ID in the user ID field, it lists down all the information on the specific category or user. Now to solve medium difficulty challenge, go to settings and set the difficulty to medium. This security level has a mitigation technique implemented. It uses MySQL real escape string function, while this does not allow the quotes in the past value. In our case, we do not need them, and we can simply bypass it with providing the payload without the apostrophe. We need to right-click on the page and inspect the page, and we need to use the payload within the select element. And once you click Submit, you will get the results. So we are on DVWA. Just change the security level to medium, then move to the SQL injection challenges, and here you can see that we can only select user IDs from the drop-down list, and if we submit any user ID, we get its information. Now, right-click on the page and inspect the page. Navigate to the User ID drop-down menu, and within the select element, select any value and use the payload as shown on the screen without the apostrophe or quotes. And you can see that information of all users is dumped out. Now for high difficulty, go to Settings and set the difficulty to high. The high severity SQL injection example requires entering user ID on another page. However, this does not change the fact that the vulnerability exists and we can use the same payload which we used for the low security level. Once you open the page, submit the page on the new tab and you will get the results. So back on DVWA, set the security level to high, and move to SQL Injection tab. Once you click Change Your ID link, a new tab will open. Once you provide the session ID here, you will get the information displayed in the previous step. So just use the payload here as shown on the screen. And click on Submit, and the information is dumped on the main tab. So we have successfully completed medium and high challenges on SQL injection on DVWA. In this lecture, we are going to see what is command injection and how we can practice command injection on DVWA application. We are going to solve all challenges of command execution on DVWA. Some websites allow you to execute commands through a web interface, typically to generate some reports. The DVWA provides a command execution module which you can use to ping IP addresses. We are to find a way to execute other commands from the same text box. Now you should be on Kali Linux or Pirate OS in VMware VirtualBox or running natively on your PC. Now let's first solve low difficulty command execution challenge. Go to Settings and set the difficulty to low. We can use multiple ways to execute commands in the same text box. The shown commands will work fine and will execute. You can see that we can even get a reverse shell as shown in the last example. If we use the ls command with the ping command, we can get the list of files in the same folder. Now let's see what happens in medium difficulty command execution challenge. In medium difficulty, some type of input sanitization is being performed. The ampersand and semicolon symbols are blacklisted, but we can still use the pipe symbol to execute our commands. Now, let's get an overview of high difficulty command execution. Now, in this difficulty, even the pipe is blacklisted, but there is a typo and the space is there. We can enter it without space to get the same results. Now let's solve them on actual application. First of all, set the difficulty of DVWA to low, then go to the command injection module, enter an IP address, and click Submit. We will get a ping response. Now, if we enter the same address with double ampersand and ls command, we will get the list of all files in the same folder as well. And we have successfully exploited our first vulnerability. Now let's see how we can use this vulnerability to get a reverse shell. First of all, start a netcat listener with the nc 9001 command. Now use the command as shown on the screen. We are using netcat to connect to our netcat listener, and you can see that we get a shell here. You can execute different types of commands like ls, who am I, etc. Now change the setting to medium. Go back to command injection module, and if you try to run the same command, you will see that we will not get any results. If you look at the source, you will see that double ampersand sign and semicolon signs are blacklisted. Now you can use a pipe single to bypass this filter and get the results. Now set the security level to high. And try to run the same command. We will not get any results. If you look at the source code this time, we will see that many symbols are blacklisted. But there is a typo in the pipe symbol, which has an extra space. So, we can type the same command without spaces, and we can get the results. So, we have successfully completed the command execution challenges in all 3 difficulty modes. In this video, we are going to see what is CSRF attack, and we are going to solve the low difficulty CSRF challenge in DVWA. CSRF stands for Cross-Site Request Forgery. It is a type of attack that occurs when a malicious website, email, or blog causes a user's web browser to perform an unwanted action on a trusted site for which the user is currently authenticated. This attack can be used to transfer funds, change account information, or perform other malicious actions. You should be on Kali Linux or Parrot in VMware VirtualBox, or running natively on your PC. In Step 1, go to Settings and set the difficulty to low. Try to change the password. Once you click on Change, you will see the notification that the password has been changed. Now focus on the URL. You can send this to some other authenticated user in an email or by any other method. Whenever he clicks on it, his password will also be changed. And as we have set the password, we will know the password. The URL remains constant among all users, so whoever executes it, his password gets changed. So on your application, go to the CSRF module. Here, we can change our password. We also have a Test Credentials tab where we can check whether our password is correct or wrong. Set the DVWA settings to low. Go to the CSRF tab again and try to set a new password. And click on Change. Now, notice the URL. A new password is indicated in the URL. Now copy this URL and send it to any other user. Now you can amend the password as per your wish. And whenever the other user executes this URL in his own browser, his password will also get changed. We can check the changed password with Test Credentials, and we can see that the password has been changed. If you look at the source code, we can see that there is no sanitation being performed. It just checks for the old password and matches the new password and the Repeat Password tab. I hope you understand the concept. In this video, we are going to solve low and medium difficulty file upload challenges on DVWA. File upload vulnerability is a vulnerability in web applications that allows an attacker to upload malicious files to a server. These files can then be executed on the server, potentially giving the attacker unauthorized access to the sensitive information, the ability to execute arbitrary code, and the ability to launch further attacks. The vulnerability typically arises when the application does not properly validate or sanitize the file being uploaded, allowing the attacker to upload the file with a malicious payload. So you should be on Kali Linux or Parrot OS in VMware, VirtualBox, or running natively on your PC. Now let's see the low difficulty file upload challenge. First of all, go to Security Settings and set the difficulty to low. Now create an MSF Venom payload on your Kali machine. Just provide the IP address of your machine and port. Now run Metasploit and start a multi-handler to listen to PHP reverse sessions. Now upload the file. The file will be uploaded without any restriction, and then you can open the file in the browser. On opening the file, we will get the reverse shell. So we are on Kali Linux. First of all, change the security level to low, move to the File Upload tab. You can view the source, and you can see that no sanitization is being performed on File Upload. Now open Metasploit. Let's first start a multi-handler to listen to reverse shells. Search for handler and you get a number of results. The multi-handler is at number 30. Select it. Set the payload to listen to PHP reverse shells. As we are running DVWA on our local machine set the L host to 127.0.0.1 and run it. And our reverse handler will start. Now let's create a malicious payload. Use MSF Venom to list all PHP payloads. We are going to use PHP Meterpreter Reverse TCP payload. Use the command MSF Venom-P payload. Set L host to our local IP and port, and output the code in exploit.php file. And our malicious payload has been generated. No back on DVWA. Click on Browse, and upload the payload. You will get the link to the payload. Just copy the link and paste it in the browser. And you get a reverse Meterpreter shell. Here you can perform different commands. Now let's delete the payload from the server. Use the command rm to remove it. Now again run multi-handler to listen to reverse shells. For medium difficulty file upload challenge, change the difficulty to medium. Create a MSF Venom payload on your Kali machine. Run Metasploit and start a multi-handler. And upload the file. The file will not be uploaded in medium difficulty. The server checks for the file content type, and if it is not an image, it does not upload it. Now you need to fire up Burp and try to upload the same shell generated in the previous step and capture the request in Burp. Now send it to the repeater and change the content type of the application to image and forward the request, and we will get the reverse shell. Let's see the demonstration. First of all, change the security level to medium. Let's try to upload the generated payload, and you will get an error. And if you view the source, you can see that it checks if it's an image or not. Start Burp. Create a new temporary project. In the Proxy tab, turn the intercept on. And set up your browser to use the Burp proxy. Now, upload the exploit. Add click upload. Your request will be captured in Burp. Here, change the content type from application to image/JPEG. And forward the request, and our shell will be uploaded. Copy the URL and paste it in browser. And you get the reverse shell. So in this manner, we can exploit file upload vulnerabilities in any website. In this video, we are going to learn directory bursting and host enumeration. That is a very important concept in website pen testing and bug bounty. Directory busting refers to finding directories and pages of a website, whereas in vhost enumeration, we are looking to find subdomains of a website. We are going to see two tools in this tutorial, Gobuster and FFUF. Gobuster is an open-source directory and files brute-forcing tool written in Go programming language. It is used for discovering hidden file directories on a web server by generating a list of possible directories and file names and then trying to access them. FFUF is another tool that is becoming popular due to its fast speed and flexibility that it provides. Another important concept is word lists. Word lists are lists of words or phrases that are used in the directory, brute forcing to generate possible directory and vhost names. These word lists typically contain common words and phrases that are used in file and directory naming conventions, as well as vhost names and subdomains. We will be using seek lists for our lecture, which can be installed by the given command in Kali Linux. First of all, let's see the directory bursting. The commands for directory bursting are very simple for both Gobuster and FFUF. In Gobuster, use the dir flag and specify the URL and the dictionary file. In FFUF, you need to provide the fuzzword at the end of URL where you are going to find the directories. For finding the files, we can specify the extensions for searching files for that extension in the specific directory. In Gobuster, you can specify the extensions by xflag and list down the extensions with the comma in between. FFUF can also be used to brute force the files. Extensions are specified with -e flag. Now let's see some vhost enumeration commands. Vhost enumeration is the process of identifying virtual hosts on a web server. A virtual host is a method of hosting multiple domain names on a single web server. Each domain name is associated with a unique IP address or port number, and the web server uses this information to route incoming requests to the appropriate website. Vhost enumeration is often used as part of the reconnaissance phase of a web application penetration test or vulnerability assessment. Attackers can use vhost enumeration to identify all the virtual hosts hosted on a web server, and then focus their efforts on those hosts that may be vulnerable to attacks. Just use the flag vhost in Gobuster. Specify the URL, the word list, and use --append -domain flag. For FFUF, you need to use -h flag that specifies the header and specify the host. So let's see the demonstration. So I am using the web enumeration room from TryHackMe for demonstration purposes. Scroll down to Gobuster tasks. The room first explains different modes that Gobuster uses, which we have already seen. Now go to Task 6 and start the machine. Here we are provided a website address. First of all, we need to add this to our host file. I'm already connected to my TryHackMe VPN, so open a terminal and open your host file. Add the IP address and the domain name, and save the file. You can install Gobuster with sudo apt install Gobuster command. It's already installed on my Kali machine. The first question is, run a directory scan on the host and find other directories except for default CSS, images, and JS directories. Let's first visit the website. And we have a static page without any other information. Now, let's try to find the web directories with Gobuster. Use the command Gobuster with the dir flag, specify the URL, and provide the dictionary name to be used. Here, you can see that Gobuster has already found some directories. So we have changes, video, and public directory. Just answer the first question. Now in the second question, we need to find what file extension exists in the changes directory. So use the command as shown on the screen. Specify the extension with -x flag. I'm using -t to increase the threads to 32 and using the same dictionary file. So it has found a few files that are changes.conf and bootstrap.js. So answer the question on try hack me with the found extensions. So the next question is, there is a flag out there that can be found by directory scanning. Find it. So we may just check the directories one by one and find the flag file. Just open the browser and visit the directories one by one. So we do have a flag file in the videos directory. Let's copy the flag and paste it on try hack me. Let's just move to vhost enumeration. The next question is, there are some virtual hosts running on the server. What are they? Open the new terminal. Run the Gobuster with vhost flag. I am using the subdomains top 1 million from seclists. And start the scan. Gobuster found 2 subdomains, learning and products. Answer the questions on try hack me with the subdomain's name. Once you find any subdomains in solving any challenge, just remember to add them to your etc hosts file. Now try to visit them. And you can see that both websites are working now. In the next task, we need to brute force the flag file in both subdomains. Just use the Gobuster command, specify the subdomain and the extension. We'll use the same command for learning as well as the product subdomain. And we have found the flag file in the product subdomain. Please visit the website, copy the flag, and paste it on try hack me. So we have completed the challenges. Now let's just do the same tasks with FFUF. So the first task was to brute force the directories. Use the command as shown and use the same word list. There, you can see that it has found the directories. Similarly, for finding extensions, specify the extensions with -e flag. and it has found our extensions. Similarly, we can use FFUF for vhost enumeration, specify the header with -h flag, and use the subdomain's top 1 million dictionary file from seek lists. Let's start the scan. If you get a lot of false positive, stop the scan. And you can filter the results by the word size by using the -w flag. Specify the word size which we were getting in false positive results, that is 205. Well, it has found the both subdomains. Now to find the flag, specify the first keyword after the subdomain and specify the extension. And it has found the flag.txt file. So in this manner, we can use FFUF and Gobuster to do directory bursting and vhost enumeration on web applications. In this video, we are going to learn DNS enumeration, and we are going to see a lot of tools to gather information about domain name system records of a target. DNS enumeration, also known as DNS recon, is the process of gathering information about a domain name, system infrastructure, and its associated records. DNS is responsible for translating human-readable domain names into machine-readable IP addresses. It involves querying DNS servers to obtain various types of DNS records, which can reveal valuable information about the target domain, including hidden or internal subdomains. The primary purpose of DNS enumeration is to gather intelligence about target infrastructure. It can also be used by security professionals, pen testers, or malicious actors to identify potential vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, or targets for further attacks. By gathering information about the target DNS infrastructure, an attacker can potentially identify subdomains, mail servers, or other potential entry points for further attacks. Before looking at the tools, let's see what are record types that are available in DNS. The most important record types are listed here. The A record contains the IPv4 address. The Tetra A record contains the IPv6 address. The C name record contains canonical name records. You can find mail servers in MX records and the name server in NS records. And then there are a lot of other records as well. We can also ask a DNS server for AXFR records, which means we are trying zone transfer, and if successful, it includes all records about the domain. Let's see the demonstration now. Our first tool is Dig. Dig is the most common DNS enumeration tool, and it is also called DNS Swiss knife. Dig can be used for simple domain lookup. Just provide the domain name with the dig command, and we get the IP address. We can also ask specific type of records with the dig command. Just specify the record type and the domain, and it will return the result. So I am on Kali Linux. Just use the command digzonetransfer.me, which is our target website, and we get the records. If you want to get a specific type of record, just mention it with the command. For example, we can get the name servers with the command dignszonetransfer.me. And here we have all the name servers. Similarly, we can ask for the mail servers with MX record type. And we have our answer. The second tool is Host tool, which is the simplest DNS enumeration tool. Host provides a simple way to perform DNS lookups and retrieve DNS records. Just use the command host zonetransfer.me and we get the records. Similarly, we can use host tool to look up a specific record. Just use the command host-t to specify the type and then specify the domain. Host command can also be used for reverse lookups to map IP address to the website. Just use the command host and specify the IP address. So on Kali machine, just use the command host zonetransfer.me. And here you can see I have all my records. Now to get the name server record, use the command host -tns and the domain name. Similarly, we can get CNAME records. Now let's see the third tool, which is NSLOOKUP. It is a cross-platform tool for DNS enumeration. We can use NSLOOKUP on Windows to enumerate DNS records. For the simplest lookup, just use the command nslookupzonetransfer.me and we get our answer. We can also specify a record type, but we need to use this tool in an interactive manner. We can enter an interactive session with the command NSLOOKUP. You can set the type and then provide the domain and we will get the answer. So on Windows for simplest DNS lookup, just use the command nslookupzonetransfer.me and we will get the A record. Let's enter an interactive mode. Just use the command NSLOOKUP, set the record type to NS, and now provide the domain, and we get the name servers for the domain. Similarly, you can set the type to text. Specify the domain name again, and we get the text records. Now let's see, what is zone transfer, which is very essential for any pen testing assignment. Zone transfer is a mechanism in DNS for sharing and synchronizing DNS database information between servers. Pen testers and hackers can leverage zone transfer to gather intelligence about the target DNS infrastructure. Zone transfer provides a comprehensive list of DNS records, including subdomains, IP addresses, and mail servers. So the concept is very simple. First of all, you identify the actual name server, and then you try to initiate the zone transfer. If DNS server is vulnerable, we will get all the records. The host tool can be used to initiate zone transfer. First, look for the name server, and then check if it supports zone transfer. Try all listed name servers for the best results. Once you have the name server, you can use the command host -lzonetransfer.me and specify the name server to initiate zone transfer. dig can also be used to initiate zone transfer. Just use the command dig axfrzonetransfer.me. Specify the server with @symbol. Similarly, NSLOOKUP can also be used to perform zone transfer. Now let's see zone transfer in action. On your Kali machine, use the command host -t to get the name servers. Now use the command host -l, the domain name, and the server name. And our zone transfer is successful as we get all the records and the hidden subdomains as well. Similarly, to initiate zone transfer with dig use the command, dig axfr, the domain name, and the server name. And you can see that we have got all the records, and it is presented in a very beautiful manner. The third tool is an NS lookup. In Windows, just enter interactive session with NS lookup. Try to get name servers by setting type to NS. Set server to actual name server. Now set type to any. And now provide the domain name. And we get all the records. Now to initiate zone transfer to get hidden information, we can use the command ls-d and the domain name. And we get all the zone transfer information, including the hidden subdomains. Now, let's see some automated tools that perform all the actions automatically. The first tool is DNS Recon. It is designed to automate and streamline the process of querying DNS servers, retrieving DNS records, and conducting various types of DNS-related scans. You can use the command DNS Recon, -d, the domain name, and specify the type with -t flag. The second tool is DNS Enum. It is an automated tool that collects all possible information about the target. Fierce is another tool for DNS enumeration and is very popular with pen testers. So I'm back on Kali Linux. Just issue the command DNS Recon -d, domain name, and -axfr. And you can see that we have got all the information about the target. It has automatically determined the name server and has triggered zone transfer automatically. The next tool is DNS Enum. Use the command DNS Enum and the domain name. You can see that it provides information in a very organized manner. It even brute forces the domain names, and it also provides the ranges, so it is a very useful tool. The third tool is Fierce. Please use the command fierce-domain and zone transfer.me. And it will also list down all the records. It got them with zone transfer. That's all for this lecture. That wraps up today's session. Now, jump into your lab and test these techniques ethically, and subscribe to Caveman Tech for the next video.